Hey everybody, welcome back to the Court of Random Opinion. My name is Lauren Neidigh. Yesterday I had a good long conversation with my friend Clayton Echard. If you don't know who Clayton is, he's a former lead of The Bachelor, and he had a pretty rough go of it, I think, during and after his season. But lately he's been in the headlines because of this court case, which is now getting national attention, where this woman falsely accused him of impregnating her with twins, and it turns out she's been running this scam for over a decade. And she really put the guy through the ringer. I've obviously covered that court case ad nauseum on this channel, but I wanted you guys to know that was not my first experience with Clayton, and I thought that you guys should get to know him a little bit beyond what we've seen in court. Because one thing I know for sure is that whatever happened with Laura Owens, it's the least interesting thing about Clayton Echard. I feel like he gets a lot of flack online, and I feel like a lot of people are missing out on a really great guy if they only know him through what's being said on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever. So I didn't really want this to be too structured of a conversation. I wanted him to just be himself. And as always, it was a pleasure to be able to learn from him and to listen to him. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. I know you did like NFL for a little bit. Is that right?
I mean, cup of coffee. I was hardly in the NFL, but
hardly, to me, hardly is like, that's kind of a lot because like most people don't even make it.
Oh yeah. No, I think people, they go, hey, look, but you made it though. I'm not trying to take away from what I did. I'm just honestly trying to give more credit to the individuals that stopped.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just know that I was there, but I didn't stick long. I could have. I really truthfully believe that I could have. I lacked a few things. It was more mental. So it's just being at the right place at the right time. But no, I just want people to know that I'm like, hey, I wasn't there for long, right? Like you can say whatever you want about it. I made it, but I don't take away from that. I'm super proud of the fact that I made it. But answer the question, when I went to Mizzou for 5 years, we were conditioned in a way where we were meant to be, we were basically representing the Mizzou brand, my alma mater. So they wanted us to be able to be clean cut and have, say all the right things as best as we could. That's kind of where like the mental training began for me. So when I went into the Bachelorette and Bachelor, they had even mentioned to me, they're like, you've already been media trained. But we're going to take you to the next level. Gotcha. So they trained me to like not get caught up on some interviews if someone tries to hit me with like a comment out of nowhere that's provocative. They sandwich it in there. They're just like, how's your day going? So what are your political beliefs on this?
Oh no. Yeah.
Even more sneaky than that. So I've gotten trained where I'm like, someone asks a question, I stop, I think, and then I answer, make sure I don't get hit with something, a little curveball. But that only happened once. Somebody tried me early on and I jumped on my training.
Well, I bet I would have figured you gotten a lot of questions like that, but I noticed you're also like not somebody who gets too into politics and stuff when you're speaking and all that. I like that because personally, I also try to avoid that. I think it's like everything's so partisan now and people get so intense. I'm kind of like, it makes me afraid that if I were to say something political, that people would stop seeing me as a person and also just like harp on, like all of a sudden I'm the bad guy because I'm not this or that, So I don't know. I appreciate that about you.
And I really think, honestly, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. I mean, I see it online. The second somebody states that they're on one side or the other, they are completely, eradicated from the other side. They're basically, I can't support this individual anymore. And I think, like with these issues going on, it's not as simple as a right and left divide.
No, definitely not.
It's super complex. I personally, it's I find it a little humorous, I suppose, but people online assume that I'm Republican. I didn't vote in the last election. I would say I'm independent. I'm from Missouri, very conservative state in a small town where I was from that was heavily conservative, but I have some, I have some left-leaning views and some right-leaning views. You can't put me on one side. I'm like, oh, I see that, but then I see this over here. So I kind of pick and choose. With that being said, I'm like, I can't choose a side. I mean, I'm not, I just, this last go round, I was like, I can't vote for one side over the other because I don't, I can't fall in line. I'm
I agree with that. Yeah.
So, but I get all the comments, people make assumptions and I'm like, you're wrong. I just don't choose to jump into it. It's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on politics, so I don't speak on it. You won't see me, post about it on my social media. It's not that I'm not, I don't wish the people well or want good things to happen. And it's just like, look, this isn't my area of expertise. I'm a reality TV guy. I don't dive into politics. Like there's no reason for me to jump on some subject matter because I'll likely not have hardly any of the facts, maybe a sliver. And I think that's just irresponsible to speak on something you don't know about.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I got here because, obviously the protests out in LA are a thing right now. And I got here yesterday, and I was originally staying in downtown. And this was I didn't mean to, because this wasn't happening when I had originally planned to be back here. But the protests were a block away from where I was staying, and I woke up in the middle of the day, actually, because I'm so jet lagged, to helicopters and sirens and all this crazy stuff happening. And I've been seeing really, really intense views from both left and right people.
Yeah.
And then I was obviously going to get out of there, because I was I should not stay in this area because I'm not part of the protests, and I don't know if that's super safe. But so I got out of there, and it was interesting to go through what was actually happening in person and see this is not at all what people are describing.
I mean, so, you have the you again, depending on if it's left-leaning media or right-leaning media, you're going to have them take the worst of the worst or the best of the best and highlight it, because extremes are what sell. It falls into reality television, some lukewarm type of content, just oh, here's some people peacefully protesting. That's not gonna rev people up and get them wanting to be reactive. But if you show people burning these Waymo vehicles and you basically make it seem like that's happening all over the city, it's not right. Regardless, I don't condone that violent behavior is unnecessary. But is that happening all over the country? No, it's just happening. But again, depending on what news source you look at, they might be there's pandemonium happening all across the country. And it's no, that's just one area. And that's why I don't like politics. I get so tired. It's not black and white, and people act like it is. And it's just, I'm look, in 2016, I was, that was an election that I voted in. And I was so angry. I was so mad every day, because I was always reading the news, and it was so
me too.
Yeah, so I was negative. So I was every day I would wake up and I'd read the news about, to stay politically involved. And I was so angry and upset. And I was I can't do this. Every day I wake up, I'm reading something negative. I got to cut this out. So this last go round, I was I'm just not going to get involved in this. I don't want to. I want to be a happier person, and politics have only frustrated me. And so, I mean, that's just why I choose to stay out of it.
I mean, nobody should be forced to kind of take a stance on that publicly if they don't want to. I feel as a public figure, just not just you, but all public figures, I feel there's a lot of people who are politics are obviously not their area that they want to be talking about, but people almost want to pressure them into, you have to say one thing or the other, you have to pick a side here, or you're just, and they automatically assume that you are the enemy if you don't. And it's hard to kind of watch that happen too, because as somebody who's, again, like you said, independent, I have some left views, I have some right views, and I don't really talk about them very much. It's hard to watch that and then just to see wow, this is really destroying relationships. It's destroying how we relate to each other. And it's very, very difficult to see. And I imagine you would have obviously a lot more pressure in that area, because people expect public figures to take a stance. But sometimes the best thing for public figures to do when they don't have all the information and when they don't really have a strong opinion is not to say anything. So, and people don't take kindly to that for some reason.
No, they say that silence is taking a side. And I heavily disagree with that.
Absolutely.
I hate when that narrative gets thrown out there. I just believe that you can fully choose not to respond because you don't feel comfortable responding, because either you don't have all the facts or, you're protecting your own, wellness. You're look, I don't want to come under fire for these beliefs. It's not worth it. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, and other people can speak up. Me speaking up doesn't, move the needle. And again, people will disagree. They'll say the more people that speak up, the better.
Right.
But I'm just not a political activist. I'm look, I'll speak up about wellness. I share with people, my carnivore diet, and I've taken people through this, legal journey. Begrudgingly, but I've been fighting the legal system. So, again, would I have ever advocated for the legal system or spoken up about it? No. I mean, I was I don't want to ever deal with the courts. But here I am. So people might say, well, look, you're not involved because it doesn't impact you. And I suppose that's somewhat true. But it's look, I can't be concerned with every single issue happening around the country right now, because when I last did that, when I was politically involved and reading, I was pissed off and upset and angry. And I'm look, I have to protect my own wellness and only allow myself to be impacted by certain things and place my focus in certain areas. In other areas, I choose not to get involved, and I say, hey, look, that's for somebody else to deal with. You know, you have your battles, I have my battles. That does not mean I have to be involved in every single one of yours. And by like, out of respect, you know, I have to, you know, focus on what, you know, making my way through the day and in a happy state of mind. So yeah, it's just unfortunate. People are like, pick a side, or else if you don't pick a side, then you're on this side. And it's like, no, there's a lot of stereotyping going on. People making assumptions because of the color of my skin or where I was raised, and all that stuff, you know, is just juvenile. It's a very immature mindset.
It is, yeah. And I know I'm almost careful to say that, because that is how I feel about it. But people are so like vicious online about politics and stuff like that. It's like I can't even say what I think about this in general without somebody being like, "Oh my God, you're a piece of crap." You know what I mean? So
I'm towing the line right now. I mean, I'm saying a little bit without saying too much. I feel a certain type of way about people that run their mouths before hearing all the facts. I don't associate with them. And so truthfully, I mean, the little I'm saying, if somebody gets offended, it's like, sorry, you know, again, I wish you the best, but I have an opinion on, you know, I think patience is a virtue, and I think people should wait until all the facts come out. And I also think that you should not live your life thinking everything is black and white, because to me, that to me is just the easy way to live life. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's one side or the other. That's simple. When you start working, when you live in the gray area, that's hard. That's hard when you're like, well, there's a nuance here. So I have to now use, you know, I have to be introspective, and I have to, you know, really jump into some critical thinking skills to understand like, how can you be here? It's really easy to say you're either here or here. It's really hard to like understand somebody in the middle, because like every case is unique. Someone's here, someone's here, someone's here, you know. And so that to me requires, you know, a complexity. There's of a mindset, and I feel that humans deserve to have that, you know, attributed to them. I'm like, we're too complex to just like categorize. And so anyways, I digress.
No, you're good. I agree with that.
That's why I stay out of it all. I'm like, I just don't, my brain already has got too much going on. If I add more to it, I'll go crazy.
Oh my gosh. I know what you mean. Yeah. No, I think that what you said earlier too about you know, your own mental health and wanting to take care of that, I can't deal with all this stuff too, is like, it's almost like that's the same reason people fall into that kind of dichotomy also, is just like, I have all this stuff going on in my life, so you can only see it one way. Like it has to be right or left. It has to be right or wrong. There's no middle ground. I feel like people do get kind of sucked into that, because it does take a lot of emotional energy to kind of really pay attention to everything and like think critically about those things, and then to understand that some people may not agree with you, but it doesn't mean they're bad people. And it's just a difficult, I feel like, thing to navigate these days. But the reason I kind of thought of that was, I know you went on Charlie Kirk, and like some people took not kindly to that. And personally, I don't really watch Charlie Kirk. I don't know much about Charlie Kirk at all. But I just saw, oh, Clayton's going on, you know, this guy's show. And so I want to hear what Clayton has to say. So to me, it was just, I was watching to see what you had to say about your situation. But other people took that as you're endorsing a whole bunch of political views from someone else. And I don't really agree with that. What kind of went through your mind at that point in time?
Yeah, I was honestly just trying to get the story out as far and wide as I could. To be honest with you, there was a couple outlets that wouldn't take the story, that were left-leaning. I was trying to get on every, like, left, right, I didn't care. But I was trying to get on a major platform. My whole goal was to like get in front of as many people as possible. Right. That's why I went on Nick Vile's podcast. I really like shopped it out. I put up story up and said, hey, you know, I'm looking to share a story. And I was fielding, you know, responses from podcasters. And I was like, look, I'm trying to go on the biggest one that I can go on, because I just want to tell this story once if I can. I'd rather not go on this and do a media tour. I just want to do it one time over and get as many people's eyes on it, so that the pressure can be put on this situation to produce a favorable outcome. Well, people weren't touching it. I mean, I was supposed to go on, well, I don't know if I think she was left-leaning at one point. See, I don't know politics. I was supposed to go on Megyn Kelly, her show, and they backed out. So, you know, I think she's now, I was told she might be right-leaning, but I think she was left-leaning. I don't know.
She is. I don't know much about her though. So I don't know much about her until recently. I had heard that she backed out, but I wasn't sure if I didn't know how true that was, or if that was just speculation.
So backed out with not really much of an explanation given, or I should say one that wasn't satisfactory in my eyes, but I just said, whatever, screw it. And then I had a connection to get me on the Charlie Kirk show, and I didn't know who he was. Like I was like Charlie Kirk, and then they sent me his IG. I'm like, oh, this guy's got a lot of followers.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, great, this is a massive account. And I didn't really do a lot of research as far as who he was, because I just go, okay, this is a big name guy. Yeah, he's got a, they could tell me that he was, a Republican, or that he had these, conservative beliefs. And I was like, okay, I don't care. I mean,
it sounds like you don't really look for that initially when you're connecting with someone. You're not thinking, what are your politics? And a lot of people are. So that's probably where the disconnect, there is.
Yeah, I don't truthfully, like, I don't, maybe this is where people say, well, that's ill preparation. I don't go into experiences or meeting people doing all this homework. I'm like, to me, for one, I don't want to. That's just more work than I need to do. I'm like, I'm going to judge you based off of the vibes, the feelings, the conversations we have. And that's how I'm going to judge you as a human being. When I came off the show and all the blowback occurred, I started looking into Charlie Kirk, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like, and he's heavily involved. And I'm like, he's talking to Trump. I'm like, this guy's huge.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that, all I know is the interaction that I had with him. And, I now see I follow him because truthfully, I met him and talked with him, and he was a very nice guy to me. Sure. Right. So regardless of all his political beliefs and stuff, when I spoke with him, he listened attentively. He showed he cared about my situation. Right. He said that he would do what he could to help me out. He was a human being, and he had a family. He has a family, and he's a family guy. I walked away and I was like, this guy paid attention to me, gave me the time of day to help me out. This was a positive interaction. So as a human being, I'm like, look, you have your own beliefs, but like how you and I interacted, I felt like I'm grateful for you helping me out, and you seem like a nice guy, right? Yeah. I don't get into the whole, like, whatever you choose to jump into and advocate for. I'm like, look, I get it. He does all that, but as my experience with him, it's like when people tell you don't interact with that person, they suck. I used to do that when I was younger. I was like, I'm not interacting with them. And then, then you meet them and you're like, this person's great, right? Just because that person had a bad interaction with them, I'm judging them based on what someone else said. I've kicked that to the curb. I'm like, no, I'm not going to take anyone's, advice on how someone else is. I'll go find out myself. Because a lot of times it's just always biased, and again, I have friends that are far left and far right and everywhere in the middle politically. Right. At the end of the day, we can laugh it off and just be like, whatever, or just be like, hey, you know what? I disagree, but it is what it is. That's okay. Thanks for, sharing your insight. And we have mature discussions. It's like, we don't agree, but whatever, like, we're not going to lose sleep over it. We're not going to, basically kick our friends to the curb. So,
right.
I got blowback, but I don't care. I really don't. I would have went on all the left-leaning networks, but they wouldn't take my story. So, and then that was, okay, segueing into that, everyone's like, oh, he's men's rights activist, which is bullshit in the world. Like, I'm not a men's rights activist. I'm all about, like, just justice being served, regardless of race, regardless of gender. Like, I don't have some motive. I love women.
Yeah.
Kind of gets me in trouble, honestly. It's like, I
can see that. Yeah, man.
and that's a joke, but truthfully, like, I'm like, this world would suck without women, right? So I'm all for equality. This whole men's right bullshit pissed me off. I'm like, I am not an activist. You don't see me going out advocating for men's rights other than just victims' rights, but somehow it got warped. And that's just what social media does, though. So, again, this goes back to me that you're a very dense individual if you choose to associate me with men's rights activism just based off of one interview. Like, sorry, I won't ever associate with somebody like you, but you're clearly, like, drawing this segue, that parallel that does not exist.
Right.
And you know what? I don't even care to explain it. That's why I haven't talked about it until maybe right now. But I'm like, I don't care to explain this to you. Like, if that's what you're going to do, just to completely jump to this conclusion based off of one interview, I don't even care to explain it to you. Like, just go. You're never going to be in my life. I don't associate with people like you, and that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said, social media kind of does that, and I agree. And that's actually kind of why we're sitting here right now. People think that, like, I just, covered your court case or whatever. That was not my first experience with you. Actually, I had asked you some questions about, like, your experience with, and I think the reason I had reached out to you in the first place was you had to read those, like, mean tweets about yourself on I think it was like the Bachelorette reunion before your season or something. But did they tell you, like, you were going to have to do that, like, read mean social media posts beforehand, or was that a surprise, or?
No, they told me.
Okay.
And they asked if I was okay with it. And I said, yeah. I said, I can laugh at myself.
Gotcha.
That didn't bother me. Like, the internet took it and was like, this is so mean, but I agreed to it. I
Yeah.
agreed to it and I was laughing at it. And then like when the show finished, because I was live, it was Michelle's AFR.
Yeah. Okay.
When that ended, I didn't feel any type of way about it. Like I wasn't bothered by it. And then all of a sudden everyone online was like not everybody, but some people were coming in my defense. And I just thought like, I don't know, like for a second I questioned, I'm like, is the show taking advantage of me? Like I thought
yeah.
Again, they asked me, are you okay with this? Because if not, we won't do it. And I said, no, go ahead. Like I love, making fun of myself. Like self-deprecating humor is awesome. And so I agreed to it. So yeah, no, I was totally fine with it. Even when people were defending me, I was like, guys, it's not that serious. But then, then things started to go south. And yeah, I mean, look, they created an entertaining TV show. That's what they were going to do.
I'm not going to lie to you. It was good TV, but I felt so bad for you at the same time because it's like people are not going to see this man's side of what's going on here, and they're going to hate him. Like and
they do, and they did, and I think that the hate is I think it was way too extreme. I think you can be upset at what I did, but if you hate me as a human being based off of what you saw, I think you should probably look in the mirror and start to question, how fair of judgment you cast upon people. Because it's like, look, and also I still get people that say I'm a piece of shit. I'm like, it's been 3.5 years. Like you got to believe that like people can change over 3.5 years. Also, if you met me in person, different story, but you based on what you watched, again, the show showed what the show did. I didn't have a body double, but they basically make everything as sexy or scary or agitating as possible because extremes sell. Nobody turns on a show and is like, I want to just feel lukewarm about this. Like they go
no, definitely not. I probably wouldn't watch this show either, to be honest. So.
Right? Like the more drama, the better. So I get that. So for a while I hated the producers, but I came around and was like, look, hey, it was entertaining. And also too, the people that know me don't hate me. If they did, then I would need to make corrections. And some of the criticism I faced online was helpful, was constructive. So I'm actually grateful for all the experience.
What would you say was like helpful or constructive, I guess?
So I didn't have really any well, I had a little bit actually. A lot of people, again, this tricked me in my mind. When you get thousands of messages online stating that you have no emotional intelligence, you start to believe certain things. So I saw a bunch of people saying he has no emotional intelligence. And I was
that's a popular buzzword on like Reddit and shit like that. But
I kind of was like, okay, maybe I don't, because I started thinking, I'm like, well, I was raised in a household of all boys, no girls, outside of my mom, but like we were just all physical. So I guess that would make sense. I definitely have a lot more emotional intelligence 3 years later than I did then. But there were times in the show where I was very, responsive. I was, attentively listening, and I was, using, constructive criticism or like deductive reasoning and critical thinking skills. And some of that stuff wasn't shown and some stuff was shown. I was like, wait, why are we breezing over this? I saw a clip that came back recently, and I was proud of myself. It was an interaction where I was, sharing some very tough information, and I was like, oh, you did really great, Clayton. But everyone made it seem like I was a dumbass in that moment. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, no, that's bullshit. Like, I'm actually going to give myself credit. I thought I handled that fairly well. I mean, so as well as you could. But yeah, I mean, look, you can't appease everybody. And so I've gotten to a place where I'm just like, I have improved. I've taken a lot of this criticism and I've improved upon myself, and I'm proud and I'm grateful that I had that criticism, because without it, I probably would have stayed stagnant. I probably would have just been like, whatever, like I'm good enough. That criticism pushed me to be better. And so, but nonetheless, you should never send people hate comments telling them to kill themselves, telling them they're ugly.
That's ridiculous.
Love that stuff is all bullshit. And
that's completely detached from reality. If you get to that point, you need to step outside and maybe talk to someone yourself.
Those people are projecting. I mean, defend themselves. No, that's not the case. I can just not like you. No. I guarantee you're not happy with your own life, and you're projecting insecurities because happy people don't hurt people. Hurt people. I've never seen a happy person to this day. Never seen a truly happy person shit talk somebody online. It's just, it doesn't happen. Happy people don't think to shit talk people online because they're just happy. They're like, I'm going about my life. My life's so great. They see something online that's maybe cringy. They go, oh, that's a little weird. They don't comment. They have the thought and it passes out of their mind, right? Not happy people have no negative thoughts, but they don't choose to go the next step. When you're typing stuff out and pressing send, you are truly an unhappy person.
Right.
And so that's the way that, I've justified it in my brain now. So when I see these negative comments, I brush them off. I'm like, and I kind of just wish them well. I'm like, man, sometimes I block them if they just annoy me. But then I'll just be like, you know what? This person's hurting more than I am, Clayton. So just leave it be. And so I move on. So now, I mean, I feel like I don't give a shit what people say about me. I'm like, I don't care. You know, I just don't. I really don't. At this point, like, I'm just focused on my own happiness and the people around me. And you know, you can watch me live my life because I'm a public figure now. So I understand I don't have privacy, but I'm just going to be me. And that's what I've been doing the last few years.
So I feel like in that first interaction we had, you kind of alluded to some kind of darker mental health days. And that was, I don't know if that was like immediately after the show or it was a little bit, you know, into that, but can you walk me through like what happened there and like how did you kind of get yourself out of that situation where you were feeling like very down and depressed? Like how did you pull yourself out of that?
Yeah, you know, that's just through a lot of internal work, right? You know, I struggled with suicidal ideation and depression as far back as 7th grade. You know, that's when my mental health struggles began. First, they took the form of me not feeling good enough in the eyes of my football coaches. You know, I was not a starter. You know, I was a 4-string quarterback, which means I was on the bench, and it would have taken a lot of injuries to happen for me to play. My brother was a better athlete than me. That was 2 years younger than me. He started varsity before I did. So all my teammates made fun of me and said that I sucked at sports. You know, then beyond that, you know, girls all friend zoned me. I was called Big Brother. That was my nickname, which I hated.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I was awkward. And so
I gotcha.
When you're 7th grade, you know, like if you base your whole importance around like a lot of times sports and relationships, because that's all you have, you know? So I felt I was, you know, insufficient in both of them or lacking in both regards. So I started to have a low self-image. And then it became like this mission that I chose to try to prove to people that I was worthy. So that's when I had this obsessed work ethic that I still have and I'm grateful for, but I just was like, I'm going to prove everybody that, you know, I am actually worth a shit. And so I was like, well, if I don't feel like I'm good enough on the football field, then I'll take it to the highest level. And I did. And once I made it there, I was like, I don't even care to be here anymore. I proved everybody I was good enough. So I just, you know, I got cut from the NFL. I was like, whatever. I got to the highest level. There is no higher level than this. And then, you know, when the Bachelorette came around and the Bachelor, when I did not hesitate to take the Bachelor role. And it was like, I was trying to fulfill that void of not feeling good enough in the eyes of women. And I was like, well, if I'm the Bachelor, I'm the most sought after man in America. So like, you can't tell me I'm not good enough in the eyes of women after this. But then, you know, that kind of worked until the show aired, you know, and then I was like basically one of the most hated bachelors ever. And then I went backwards in my belief, and I was, you know, because I had a very weak belief that like, oh, I've now satisfied this and, you know, validation need that I am good enough in the eyes of women. Well, once I was one of the most, you know, worst bachelors ever, and then the show's like the first bachelor to ever have his final rose rejected. I was like, see,
oh no,
you're never good enough, man. You'll never be good enough.
Terrible.
I remember the final episode that was when Susie declined, you know, the rose, and she went into the van, and then they drove off. I stood there. It was downpouring rain. It felt so scenic, like out of a movie. Downpouring rain, and I just stood there for 15 minutes. I mean, all the thoughts in my head were like, you failed once again. You're a failure. You'll never be good enough. Like, you just completely derailed an entire experience that should have been a dream but became a nightmare. I just felt like I was like, you're the first guy ever to have your final rose rejected. Like they said, you suck. You'll never be good enough in your life ever. So that led to me going down a really dark path. And that was obviously in that moment. Then the show airs, and then I have all these people telling me I'm not worth a shit. So then it was just like, boom, compounded on me. So all that background to say, you know, to answer your question, how did I pull myself out of that rut? First off, by leaning on my support. So I started I had to get all these thoughts and feelings out. So I started talking to all the people closest to me. And if they'd listen, I'd talk to them. So, you know, unfortunately for some of these people, I made them my therapist. You know, I was like, you know, just trauma dumping, and they were great, and they would listen to me, right? But they would take on that energy, right? So that helped, though, to get all that, you know, suppressed emotion out and up. I started going to a therapist because I realized I couldn't keep pushing this on, you know, my loved ones. So I started going to therapy. You know, then I started really just, again, communication was key, like talking about it every day. If I wasn't speaking, I was listening to someone speaking about it. So I got heavily into podcasts. Jay Shetty has a podcast called On Purpose. I listened to one of his
I know him. Yeah.
So I listened to an hour-long podcast every single day for a year, basically. And I was like, look, I don't understand these terminology. I was never taught these emotions. I was never taught to think this way. But if I listen to these experts talk like this, eventually like it's going to start making sense to me. And it did. I started to change the wiring in my brain to like think like these experts. Because if you listen to someone say something 10 times, it might click on the 10th time, right? So I started to like try to really focus on shifting my brain. So I went to therapy. I did breath work. I've done plant medicines. That was a wild experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a few of them. Yeah. I've done. And so that was wild, but it helped. And slowly over time, the more I spoke about it, I started to make sense of things, and I was starting to be better emotionally regulate myself.
Yeah.
And then I started really working hard with positive self-talk. So it was like, hey, you're thinking these things, now say these things over and over. So I was like, you're not a waste of space. You're a success. Look at everything you've done. So just always encouraging myself. I'd look in the mirror and say, like, you're the man. And, whatever I could look at, if I'm in good shape. I've always been in good shape for a long time now. So I'd flex in the mirror, whatever, be like, look at you. Like, you look good, whatever.
People don't realize like that's such a hard, and it sounds silly, but that's such a hard thing to do. And that's one of those things that when I was getting therapy as well, I was like, they want you to like look in the mirror and say nice things about yourself. That feels fucking impossible sometimes.
It does.
Like, it's so, I almost feel cringy. I like couldn't do it for the longest time. And I was like, what if somebody saw me doing this? Is what was going through the back of my mind. And I was completely alone. So it made no sense. But I was just like, I feel like everyone's judging me right now. But the thing is, it was just me judging myself. So like the thing with the mirror exercises, it's like, it's so fucking difficult because you feel like somebody's looking over your shoulder saying like, you're being weird right now. That's kind of where I was at.
Yeah. And I was getting chills as you said all that. Cause I mean, like, you've experienced, here's the power in it. Like that I found, let's say someone tells me, say you're worth it. The first time I say I'm worth it in the mirror, my internal dialogue goes, okay. No, you're not. No, you're not. We know you're not. You're lying to yourself. Then
my God. Yeah.
I'm worth it again, right? I'm worth it. And I'm saying it weekly, I'm like, I'm worth it. And it's like, my brain's like, yeah, good try, bud. You're gonna have to say this 1,000 times, right?
Oh yeah.
The next day you come back, you're like, I'm worth it. And your brain's like, no, still not gonna work, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but then a weekend or whatever, all of a sudden one day, you say, I'm worth it. And then you feel this welling up of like, I am worth it. Why have I not all this time chosen to believe that? And so then, I was times where I get emotional. I'm like, I'm worth it. I'm fucking worth it. I start screaming in the mirror and I'm like, I'm worth it. Cause all of a sudden at that point, like there's that switch. You're like, I am worth it. Cause the fact of the matter is I'm worth it the second that I choose to believe that I am. It's a perspective shift. So much life is a perspective shift. You can show anybody a negative outcome and someone has found a positive spin on it. I talked to a guy on my podcast who lost his father. And he said if it wasn't for his father passing away at a young age, he wouldn't be the successful man that he is today. He said, now let me put this out there. I'm not saying I don't wish my dad wasn't here. I would love to have my dad around. But if my dad didn't die at a young age, I would not be as successful as I am. That's a man that found the silver lining, a positive in a very, very unfortunate situation of losing a father at 14 years old. So that's perspective though. So people play victim and they say, oh, and it's like, look, you can feel bad for losing somebody. Absolutely. I'm not telling you to get over this, in a week or 2 weeks. Take as much time as you need, but just understand it's possible to find a silver lining in almost anything. I'm not going to say everything because I don't like to use absolutes. I try not to.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But like, the victim mindset is only going to keep you in the corner forever, right? And you're the only person that's going to pull you out. So that's what I started to realize. I'm like, Clayton, this is on you. You want to feel better about yourself. You want to have self-love, self-confidence, and like, you got to start taking accountability. Stop being like, well, the producers screwed me over and people are, they're stereotyping me and they're not fair and they're jealous of me, whatever. It's like, they could be, right? But like, that's not going to change anything.
Right.
Like, the only thing that's going to change your circumstances, what you choose to enact. And that's when I was like, dude, it's you. You have to go within and you have to build yourself up to where your validation is all internal. There's no external validation needed. I mean,
that's kind of it's a hard pill to swallow too. And it took me forever to kind of come to that conclusion as well. Where like, I'm like, well, these people are wrong. What these people are doing is wrong. They're being so mean. Like, this is not okay. And you want to fight everybody who's doing these wrong things to you. But at the end of the day, you just can't. Especially, like what I experience is kind of like a microcosm of what you experience, I'm sure, because you were like the lead on a TV show. But I don't know. I just always wanted to like explain to everybody. If I explain to everybody why they're wrong or why this isn't okay, they'll stop. And I wanted to believe that for the longest time. And it was very difficult to kind of navigate my way through that. But then eventually you kind of have to accept like, man, I have to do something different because I cannot keep fighting all these people, and I cannot change everyone's minds or make them see the world the way that I do. So
Yeah, you can't. And can I challenge one of your, thoughts that you just put out there?
I'll go for it. Yeah.
Your problems are as big as you make them.
Yeah.
So comparison is a dangerous place to be. So
Yeah.
I understand that you're trying to, you're giving my situation weight, and you're saying, hey, Clayton, you went through a lot, and I can really sympathize with you, which I appreciate. But I also think that the internal dialogue that you just saying, like, look, I didn't even go through nearly what you went through.
Yeah.
I would say, hey, don't try to not even use that language, because your issues are as big as you make them, and they're justified, right? So don't discredit, because I think what can happen is people go, well, he went through all this, so like I got to man up or woman up, I got to toughen up, right? Like, Clayton got through all this, so like I can, I shouldn't even be complaining. It's like no, like your lived experience is your lived experience. Like if you and me went through the same thing, sure, I might be like, that was like a 2 out of 10 on the pain scale. You're like, that was a 10 out of 10. But then we might go through another experience. You might be like, that's nothing. And I'm like, this sucks. The world's crashing down upon me.
Yeah.
I was a big people pleaser most of my life. So, getting criticized by other people was like a 10 out of 10, terrible pain, right? Because a people pleaser wants to make everybody happy.
Absolutely.
Well, somebody that doesn't struggle with people pleasing would be like, I don't give a shit. Like, right? So
no.
They would have went through my experience and been like, this is a 2 out of 10. They would have been making jokes and riling people up and purposely being the villain. Like, there are literally people I've met that are literally like, they're like, I'll be the villain. I don't give a damn what people think.
Yeah.
There was, there was a girl on my show, Shanae, that on The Bachelor that, was the villain on my season. And I happened to meet somebody that knows her very well, that like their daughter's like best friends with her. And they told me she's a sweetheart. Like, she's the sweetest girl in the world. She's now married, and I think she has a kid. And
cool.
And what I thought was really impressive, that I really am grateful for her. And at the Women Tell All, I was in the dumps. I was really struggling, and I went after Shanae because it was my way of being able to place blame on somebody else for just a split second.
Yeah.
So I basically blamed her for lying to me and doing all the, and making me look stupid and blah, blah, blah. And you know what I was super impressed by, and I have a ton of respect for her? She didn't even fire back at me. She knew I was hurting, and she just sat there and took it, and just basically was like, she knew I was hurting. And I was like, wow, I was so impressed, because I'm like, this girl literally just took all this on the chin, had so much self-love and self-confidence that I saw that she was like, whatever, I'll be the villain, I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
And then clearly she didn't care, because she went on Paradise. She was like, I'm just going to go.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
She had a redemption arc, and everyone loved her. And it's like, but that showed me, I'm like, this girl has tremendous self-love and self-confidence for her to be able to just brush all this off, because these girls were attacking her. I was going after her at Women Tell All, and she just, she was just like, keep it coming. And she didn't even go after me. So like, it's all subjective, right? Like, as far as what we experience, but I think we have to also go, hey, look, I'm not them, so I can't, undermine what I'm going through, right? Like, if this is a big deal to me, then it's a big deal, and it should be a big deal to all the people around me that care about me as well. If they're not, if I'm making it a big deal and they're not, then maybe I should question if they're the right people to have in my circle. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, just going back to what you said, I feel like it's just like a reflex. I always have to qualify everything that I say. It's like I have to let everyone know that I know I'm not the main character, but this is that. It's just, I don't know. It's like something that comes from like when I was younger, and people always assume that means parents. No, I have great parents, but like just when you're growing up, and I was always kind of, I was never great. Like I swam. I swam through college. I wasn't like a pro swimmer or anything like that, but I swam for a long time, and I was just like not very good. And my sister was like a very naturally talented, and she was 2 years younger than me as well, and like very naturally talented and very good at it. And I always felt like I was a little bit second rate, to be honest. And I don't know if she would even think twice like about that, because she never really saw me that way. But it was just like how other people would talk to me and stuff like that. So I always feel like I have to qualify things with like, I know I'm not the best, I'm not the main character, all this stuff. And then, but still, this is how I feel. It's like I have to, I don't know, almost justify my feelings. Like, I know I'm not like all that, but this is how I feel about it, So it's
kind of, but you are like, I keep getting chills because what you mentioned with your, you said that was your sister.
Yeah, my sister, I love my sister, just to be clear. Like she's great. So.
And I love my brother, my middle brother, but I felt
Yeah.
the same way. I mean, my brother got, full ride scholarships to D1 colleges. He started varsity. He was 2 years younger than me. He started on varsity before I did. I was on JV as a junior. He was starting varsity as a freshman.
Yeah.
That comparison, that's really where I started feeling like I wasn't good enough. And so I started comparing myself to him. I went through a phase where I told him I hated him because I was like, every day I wake up, you basically make me feel like I'm not good enough. But then I took it upon myself to say, well, let me become good enough in my own eyes. And I got there. But, don't take away, like, Lauren, you're very great at what you do. Like people, like you're influential, like you look at what you're doing right now. I mean, I go on Reddit, Reddit was like,
Yeah.
I used to love Reddit. I still go on it. I used to go on Reddit all the time prior to the show. Then they had a subreddit. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I still go on Reddit on the daily because I used to always go on that when I was young, like before the show. Like Reddit was one of my favorite places to go. And I go on there and I see people that like they really love you and you're the voice for so many people and they tap in because like you're personable, you're down to earth, and like you're able to be unbiased at points and just like display the facts for what they are, and you're passionate, you don't back down, because of somebody that tried to go after you and you're like, F you, I'm gonna stand up and come after, try me, right? Like strength and resilience. I mean, you have so much going for you and you really can be the main character. And I would say, hey, be the main character because I understand that for the longest period of my life, I felt like I was playing a support role. Right. But, now I believe I'm the main character. Now you have to be very careful with that because it's like where ego can take over and be like, I'm the man. I always make sure to check myself. I'm like, Clayton, you're the main character in your own story. But you're not the main character in everyone else's story. And that's okay, right? Like people aren't paying attention to you like they are with other bachelors and all that. That's fine. But I'm the main character in my own life, right? And that's where I think everybody should get to that point, right? Because it's like, it's freeing when you're just like, I'm just living my life to the fullest. I know that you're doing the work and you're going through all this and it's awesome to see, what you've done. And so I want to, congratulate you for what you've built. I also want to say thank you. That's why without hesitation, when you reached out, I was like, yeah, I'll come on and speak to you all day because, the hours that you've put in, I mean, like I see it and I watch it and, I don't always like reach out on every occasion to people, but my friends know that I'm not, that's just the way I am. It's like Clayton won't talk to you for 3 months, but doesn't mean I'm not I just do things differently. I just, I'll have a phone call with my best friend. It's been 2 months and it's like, you only talk to your best friend every 2 months. I'm like, that's the way I operate. Like I just, that's just me, no love lost, but no, I mean, you guys, you've done so much, and Dave Neal gets a lot of credit and he should, he was the first one to stick his neck out there. But I think, you, Omar, and a slew of other people, like Megan Fox, like a lot of people, and there's many others, I see Bruce has, started, talking more about it. Like all this helps, right? Every little bit helps. So, a little long-winded, but I really just hope that like you can look at yourself and really just step back and be like, look at like what I've done. And I love the fact that you posted about you and Omar like connecting. I saw that post. I think it was like either post or story, but you like, talking about the friendship you guys have formed to give each other a hard time. And I love that. I was like, man, it's so crazy how like the world will bring people together over.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sitting in his office right now, so.
Yeah, and all
purple, but it's purple in here. I'll give you that, but I can't complain otherwise.
All over blowjob babies. I'm like, that's
no.
Y'all got connected over blowjob babies. How about that?
I'm gonna start introducing him that way. Actually, that's my friend. This is how we met.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, though, like life to me, which I think, whatever you believe in, but my God has a sense of humor. It's like I just look like you never know what's going to connect people, but when you're truly being your authentic self, like you just fall into these scenarios. So here we are, all getting connected over me being a dumbass one night.
Man, I mean, as if anyone hasn't been there. You know what I mean? Like,
I have self-deprecating humor, but I'm like, when people were giving me trouble, I'm like, shut up. Like, well, you shouldn't mix business with pleasure. Yeah, well, it went sideways this time. I understand that. But like you guys are freaking saints. And maybe you don't mix business with pleasure, right? But you do other stuff that I don't do. So stop playing this like tit for tat. Oh, I'm better than you're not better than me. No one's better than me. And I'm not better than anybody else, right? Like I'm saying that to say like, stop comparing. You live your own life. You have your vices. Your vices aren't my vices and my vices aren't your vices. So I give myself grace, and people are like, well, you should just, he should just stop interacting with women. I'm like, I'm not going to let one.
What?
I'm not going to let one woman, to basically, I'm not going to take what one woman did to me and then all of a sudden carry that in as baggage with other women. Yeah. I literally, this is what I say. I go, that woman is crazy, right? She is in her own category by herself, right? The majority of women are not her. So
right. Like, thank God for that. I mean,
I move on, right? So like, so, people, they're going to have their opinions. I'm like, hey, look, you don't have the testosterone of a 32-year-old like I do. That's,
that's true. That's true.
I got it tested. I'm up in like the 980s, which is extremely high. So again, not making an excuse. I'm just like, look, I have a high testosterone, a high drive, and really easy for you all to say, just avoid it. I'm like, look, I'm what I am. So, and you can say whatever you want, but like your vices are yours and mine are mine and whatever. Like here I am.
I mean, you should never have to justify that. I mean, that's really, but
well, I get too much. But at the end of the day, look what I'm getting.
no, you're fine.
Damn, people can say whatever they want about me and like Clayton should keep it in his pants more. Well, I've done what I've done. So, and if you're gonna just basically call me a terrible human being for that.
Yeah. I mean, they would have found, to be honest, there's people who are that angry. They would have found another reason. It doesn't really matter.
They're just finding whatever they can. And so many people wanted me to be guilty when this first came out. And now the revisionist, history coming out. I see it on Reddit. Everyone's like, well, we were super supportive of Clayton whenever this first No, you weren't.
I saw all of that too.
It was 80% of them wishing that I was, going to basically get, basically fed to the wolves and I was going to be, guilty. So this revisionist, it just makes me laugh. They're all like, we were supportive. No, you were never supportive. Like the large majority of you weren't. So, but whatever. Yeah. Like, again, I can't get through to people like that. Like, I'm like, you guys are so stuck down, in your own minds that like you have so much work to do, and and someone needs to, get through to you. But it's not going to be me because I don't have the energy to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's totally fair. You shouldn't have to.
No, unfortunately, they're just going to always be in the victim mindset and always be angry until they finally decide to take it upon themselves to improve in their own lives. That's
fuck them. You just got to let them do that on their own time, I guess. They have no right to push that in your face, though. So
but they do, and that's what social media allows. Is anybody can have a platform, and
they shouldn't be able to. But I guess you're right, they do. I just mean, you shouldn't have to deal with that. You shouldn't have to respond to that. You can just move on with your life as you have. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, social media, is an echo chamber of, it really does feed into a lot of negativity with no repercussions. And so a lot of people still to this day attribute likes to value, and there's no correlation. You may be liked and that's why you get more likes, but that doesn't mean you hold higher value. I mean, so people get, 1,000 comments and they think they owned me. They're like on my post being like, oh, Clayton, like, oh, Gabby was right. And I'm like,
oh no.
Likes, and they're like, I got him. And I just look at it and I'm like, you think these likes equate to value? Like your comment holds no value in my eyes. Like, I mean, I'm breaking it up right now because I want to just highlight that I'm like, these people have it so backwards. I can dance and get 3,000 likes. Somebody else that's way more liked can do the same exact dance, be no better of a dancer than me, and they'll get 50,000 likes. I've seen it time and time again, and everyone's like, she's got more likes than shares. And it's like, because you all just don't like me, so you share and make fun of me, but there's 12,000 of you making fun of me and only 3,000 liking it. But it holds no value in my eyes, because I've watched another influencer that you all love do the same dance just as well, if not worse than me, and he has 50,000 likes. You've just shown me that like these likes don't hold any value. These likes don't say like you're a bad dancer, Clayton. No, what they say is we like this person more. That's why we're clicking like. And so I know that. So when people say I suck as a dancer and this, that, and the other, I'm like, oh, look at his likes. And clearly everyone agrees. No. All people choosing to agree on is that I don't like you or I like you. That's why I choose to click like. That's it. That's the only valuation that those likes hold. So like, oh, I don't know why he would keep sharing these things. He only gets 2,000 likes. I don't give a damn because I'm getting better. So so I'm improving. So I don't, regardless of how many likes you send my way, I'm improving and progressing in life in all facets. So
I'm not giving you another like until you do the Macarena for me. So that's how it is.
Well, maybe I can incorporate the Macarena. Is that the da-na-na-na-na-na-na?
Oh God, no, that's the best. Yeah, absolutely.
It's this. It's forward, hands. I can maybe incorporate that, throw some footwork in or something. Let's see if I can.
I would be so hyped for that.
Yeah, I'll have to try to make it a little bit more complex. I think I can do the Macarena without much practice, but
I'm all for it. Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I got to give Omar his office bag because this is his work day. So.
Okay. Well, I am a blabber, but I wanted to, really just get out what I could. I'm really grateful that you gave me the time, and
Yeah, man, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
I don't normally talk. I haven't talked about it, I don't think. So this is all like, first time stuff for the most part. So
well, I feel like you have had so much to talk about, like what happened to you. You don't get to talk about you a whole lot. So I really wanted to do that, especially because I feel like like I said, my first experience with you was you doing something nice for me. So I wanted to just talk to you for a little bit. So
thank you for allowing me to address some things internally and get it out there.
Anytime, absolutely anytime.
Really great.
If you ever need anything, just let me know.
I know you stand by that. I know you mean it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this guy's got a stream, and I'm gonna make an appearance on. So I'm gonna cut it off here, I guess. But I will definitely be in touch, and then I'll probably be out in Scottsdale a little bit for one of those hearings at least. So hopefully I'll see you there or somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll be there. That's for sure. I'm showing up.
Yeah.
Are you guys? Right. Absolutely, I'm showing up.
Well, thank you, Clayton. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you very much. So.
I appreciate you too, Lauren.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. See you later.
Bye.